Canada. So, here at the Marc Lopez Law Firm, we do a ton of DUIs. One of the consistent issues that we come into is getting into Canada with DUI charges pending or getting into Canada with a DUI conviction. So, attorney Zach Bailey and myself, we've talked to numerous attorneys in Canada. We've worked with numerous attorneys who regularly help our clients get into Canada, and we decided to make a short video to kind of go over that process. So, Zach, what's the big deal? Why does Canada consider DUI such a serious issue?
So it's especially important for people who either live in Canada or people who travel to Canada for work. They consider a DUI a serious criminal act. And so it's really easy for them when you're trying to enter Canada to look up your criminal history and see, do you have a pending DUI? Do you have a DUI conviction? And all that's really important too, depending on where you are in the process with all this.
And so we're not talking about Canadian citizens. If you're a citizen of Canada, you're going to be A-OK. We're talking about non-citizens, either visitors, residents, but basically people who are trying to get into Canada. I have heard horror stories. People with DUI convictions going on cruises and they're docking in Canada and Canadian authorities will not let them off the cruise ship. We've heard of individuals basically flying into Canada, stopped at customs. You can't come into the country. People trying to travel via car or whatnot, physically barred from entering. And so we don't want that to happen to any of our clients or potential clients. So what can somebody do if they're facing charges, not convicted, but they're facing charges and they have to get into Canada either to work, visit people? What are their options if they're facing charges, not yet convicted?
The first thing is you have to let us know. We can't help if we don't know. What we can do is let the Canadian officials know that we're fighting these charges. We deny the charges. At this point, that's all they are. They're allegations. So we can work with you. We can work with the Canadian attorneys in order to write sort of a memorandum to assist in that process.
And it sounds kind of weird, but this has worked for prior clients. If you're not convicted, basically a letter that we use, you go into Canada and if they ask you, hey, are you facing any charges? Yes, I am. And here's a letter from my attorney. We know what to write to try to minimize the impact on you getting into the country while charges are before conviction. Now, Zach, if somebody's convicted, what are their options of getting into Canada?
So you can still get it, but it becomes more difficult. It sort of depends on where you are in the process. 0 to 5 years out from conviction, it gets a little bit more tricky. 5 years and on, we have some more options that we can take. Again, working with Canadian attorneys because everything has to be filed by a Canadian attorney. But we have relationships with them, and we're able to make that work. But it gets a little bit trickier post-conviction.
The bottom line is, if going into Canada is important to you and you're facing criminal charges, you have to let us know. What doesn't work is simply, well, I was convicted, I'm going to go to Canada for a quick weekend. That's not how it's going to work. You have to plan accordingly. And like Zach said, it's a little bit tougher between 0 and 5 years from conviction. Not impossible. Not impossible.
No.
We have clients that we know for a fact got into Canada 0 to 5 years. After 5 years, there's more of a permanent measure you can take. The bottom line is, if you regularly do business in Canada, if you travel to Canada, if you're our current client, we're fighting for you. I promise you that. If you're someone that's watching these videos because you found us, you're trying to figure out what attorney is right for you, you need to get an attorney that will fight for you and knows what they're doing, not just somebody that, I do a few DUIs a year, I'll give it my best shot. You want someone that actually knows law and actually fights and knows what they're talking about. Canada considers, just like Zach said, DUIs to be a very serious offense. Doesn't matter if it's a misdemeanor. They treat it as a serious crime, and it will prevent your entry upon conviction unless certain steps are taken. So, anything you want to add to that?
I'd just like to add, we live in a post 9/11 world now. So if you think maybe Canada doesn't know about this, chances are they do. There's a lot of information sharing that goes on. They're probably going to figure it out.
And our experience is, if you lie about something, it's usually 10,000 times worse than if you're upfront and honest. So where maybe you're not going to get into Canada this time, if you lie and say, I never was convicted, that's incorrect. And you know you're saying that, you might be barred a little bit longer than you might like or might think. So, any questions about Canada, getting into Canada with a DUI, give us a call, 317-632-3642. And remember, always plead the fifth.